Welcome to Thrive at Any Size, a podcast for women ready to reconnect with their bodies and build sustainable wellness without perfectionism. I'm Leanna, a registered nurse and online health coach. Together, we'll explore intuitive living, evidence-informed wellness, and the habits that support long-term health. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, welcome back. I am so glad you're here. Sorry if I sound a little bit congested, but I think I have the starts of a little cold. But also, thank you so much to everyone. If you listen to episode one, you know that in episode one, we set the tone for this whole podcast, it being about real life, real bodies, and real life rhythms. And now that you know the story behind me and Thrive at Any Size, I really wanted to bring you into something that's been supporting me in this current season with two kids, healing my knee, my relationship with food, rebuilding, and kind of navigating this lovely, beautiful thing we call life, right? And honestly, this episode actually came straight from your DMs to me. Ever since I shared back in like January or December that I got an Aura ring for Christmas, some of you have been asking me in the DMs, do I like it? Is it worth it? Does it make me obsessive? And, I think you guys really want to know, what do I actually do with all of the data? So today I'm going to be answering all of that, but through the lens of what, Thrive at Any Size is all about, which is health awareness, building flexible life rhythms, and living within your aligned choices. So because, the way I use the Aura ring is not about controlling what I'm doing throughout the day. It's not about control, right? And I'm not using it to like chase the perfect score or like step count, the perfect step count. I'm not trying to use it to micromanage my body per se, but I really want it to be, and I am using it as a tool of connection. Having connection that kind of helps me understand what my body might be wanting or asking me for in the moment, so that I can support it, and kind of rebuild that self trust with listening to my body. So why don't we kind of get into it? I have a few key features that I really, really enjoy. And so I'm going to kind of go through those. Um, let's see. So, one of the biggest shifts in my journey right now, especially after everything I told you about last episode, traumatic birth, a chaotic postpartum experience, pushing myself into knee injury, is that I've been really wanting to learn to hear and listen to my body again. And so for years, I pushed through everything in the name of having, discipline on my journey or doing the things I should be doing. And that really did lead me to ignore the whispers that my body was giving me until it started shouting at me and I could no longer ignore them. And so I feel like in using the Aura ring over the past several months, that it does really help me kind of tune back into those whispers before they become screams. So most mornings, I check on the Aura app, and I check my sleep and my readiness scores, but I don't do it as if like, oh, did I pass or fail? Am I having a great sleep and readiness score of the day? But I'm more using it as like a check-in, like how am I doing today? What might I need today? What might my body need? And the ring usually confirms how I'm already feeling, right? If I was up all night with Miles, my son, or my daughter had a nightmare and I stayed up too late, folding laundry or scrolling Instagram, because that's what we do. My sleep and my readiness scores usually reflect it, and it's just not information that I don't already know. But instead of me pushing through exhaustion, which was my old pattern, it gives me kind of a nice permission or awareness to be able to make adjustments to my day. So on a day that I've had, poor sleep and my readiness is low, um, giving myself that moment to adjust could look something like, instead of doing that planned, intense strength training workout, I might seek a gentler 30-minute walk or a gentler Pilates workout. Although you know what, Pilates is tougher than people think. It can really humble you, but I digress. But I might choose a gentler form of movement instead. I might choose to try to have a slower morning if my day allows it. I might try to make sure that I have more balanced snacks and foods throughout my day so I can feel more supported and more nourished throughout the day and support low energy levels. But what I'm getting at, is that I'm learning to kind of just give myself more compassion and less pressure um, as time goes on, right? Because the truth is, our bodies don't respond to stress in our 30s, in our mid 30s and beyond, the way they did in our 20s, right? In our 20s, we have a lot more hormonal stability. We're able to recover a lot easier. We have more of a buffer for those late nights and skipping meals and kind of pushing through. But as we move toward our mid 30s, and I'm definitely experiencing this for myself, and getting into those early waves of like perimenopause era, our hormones naturally become more sensitive to stress. So, estrogen, not to get too sciencey, well, actually, you know what? This is a health podcast. So, yes, let's get a little sciencey, right? I am a nurse. So, estrogen and progesterone do fluctuate more. Cortisol hits harder, and, our bodies become a lot less tolerant of the constant go, go, go we used to normalize. So the same pressure that we could power through in our 20s starts to feel a lot heavier now, not because we're failing, but it's because our physiology is actually shifting. And when we keep pushing at that same pace without adjusting, our bodies respond with more inflammation, more fatigue, more mood swings, more disrupted sleep patterns. And, none of this is a weakness. None of this means you have a lack of discipline. None of this means that you're doing something wrong. It's really just our bodies asking for a different kind of support in this different season of life. And so another piece of the physiology when it comes to poor sleep, because like I said, I use the aura ring to kind of see, shows me how I slept, what the quality of my sleep was, how many hours was I in REM cycle, how many hours were I in deep sleep, how many hours did I sleep in total. So I use it that way. And when it comes to poor sleep leads our stress hormones to rise. And when our stress hormones rise, our hunger cues get louder. So we feel more hungry, our cravings feel a lot stronger, and our energy becomes a lot more unpredictable. And again, this is just your physiology. This is just your body adjusting to trying to keep you alive. So on those poor sleep and low readiness days, I try to stabilize my meals. I soften the expectations that I put upon myself, and I try to support my body instead of fighting against it. And the Aura Ring doesn't necessarily tell me what to do, but it is helping me to kind of listen to my body more and kind of honor what it's trying to tell me. My next favorite feature is the cycle tracking, and it's been really huge for me, especially no longer being on birth control and kind of navigating these hormonal shifts in my late 30s. So there are some days that I think I wake up thinking that I actually did sleep well, but I feel so tired. Like I had a full 8 hours or 8.5 hours, but why am I so tired? Or sometimes I'm just wondering, why does everything feel a little bit harder to deal with? Why does everything feel a little heavier? Why am I craving carbs like crazy today? And so then I kind of can look in the app and it shows me what part of my cycle I'm in. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the late luteal phase. So having more cravings makes a lot of sense. And so just having the ability to have that moment of clarity really can shift everything. And it moves me from feeling frustrated with my body to kind of just understanding my body. Because as women, our hormones shift week to week. Each cycle brings a different bout of feelings and emotions. Our energy, our mood, our sleep, our appetite, our recovery, all of it changes. But most of us were taught that we need to be consistent. We need to expect consistency. We should act and do the same routines every day in order to be successful and to perform the same way every day. And something that I really appreciate about the Aura Ring cycle tracking is that it doesn't just tell me where I am in my cycle, but it also gives me gentle suggestions for how I can support my body in whatever particular phase of my menstrual cycle that I'm in. So, that might be like more nourishment in the late luteal phase, or more rest when progesterone is higher, or more movement when my estrogen is rising. And, simple reminders like that really do help me work with my body and with my physiology instead of fighting against it. You know what? Talking about all of this makes me kind of want to go deeper into cycle awareness in a future episode, because so many of us have no idea what's really going on in our body outside of that 1 week where we have our periods, that menstrual week. And, some of you have asked me how we can support our bodies during each phase. So yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Look for a podcast episode breaking down our monthly cycles soon. But for now, the Aura Ring gives me a simple and gentle way to kind of just stay connected to those innate rhythms without having to like overthink it too much. Okay, my next feature that I want to talk about is and you know what? This might be one of the most underrated features of the Aura Ring, is the stress tracking feature, because it showed me that our bodies feel stressed or show internal signs of stress, even if our minds don't necessarily think we're stressed. So stress doesn't always have to look like panic or overwhelm. Sometimes you think, hey, I'm fine today, but there were moments of high stress in the day. Sometimes it looks like, you're just being really productive and really active, and that's a stressor. Maybe it looks like you're really just trying to hold everything together, but the Aura Ring kind of picks up on that. And there have been days where I felt like totally okay, but my heart rate variability was telling a different story. And when I looked back, I realized, oh, that was the day I skipped lunch. Or, oh, that was the day I had 5 back-to-back tasks that I was trying to get through. Or maybe that was the day that I was go, 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 and I really didn't have a moment to pause once. And, it just reminds you that stress shows up in the body before it shows up in the mind. And the Aura Ring will give you options to do like guided meditations or like deep breathing exercises when it notices that your stress is high, your internal stress. And so when you start noticing these stress patterns, you can kind of support yourself earlier. You can intervene before you get burned out. You can shift something small instead of waiting for something big to kind of like break you, right? So again, not about micromanaging your stress, but really just kind of connecting those dots. All right. And then I think what else do I like? Oh, next, let's talk about how movement looks different for me now. Some days I have a workout. Some days I'm just chasing my toddler around. Some days it's cleaning the house. Some days it's walking the hallways of my school because I'm a school nurse. Some days it's, nothing structured at all. Sometimes sometimes it is. And the Aura Ring really helps me to honor all of that. It picks up on when I'm doing movement that not only happens in a gym, right? So it reminds me that movement isn't only what happens in that gym, but what's going on throughout your day in your real life. And that has been kind of really healing my relationship with exercise, especially after my knee injury, where I wasn't able to do as much as I could before, but it picks up on those gentle, consistent movements that I'm doing throughout the day. And of course, having consistent movement really does help support, your sleep, your digestion, your blood sugar, stress regulation, all of that. Even if it's not like quote unquote a workout, right? Your body responds wonderfully to just having consistent movement woven into and throughout your day. So when the ring shows me that I've been active in ways that I didn't even really register, it's really validating, right? It kind of reminds me that I'm doing a lot more than I think I am. And the last feature that I want to talk about, and I feel like I didn't even know the Aura Ring did this until I got it, and those are the meal insights. So this feature really did surprise me because it really is aligning so deeply with my current philosophy around food. And this is not like macro tracking, but you just kind of take a picture of whatever you're eating, and the app kind of gives you a reflection, tells you what in that meal is supporting you, what could make it more nutritious for next time, how that meal might impact your sleep or your energy levels throughout the day. So it doesn't tell you like exactly macros, but it will say like this is a really good protein source. It's not like strict tracking. It doesn't give you any judgment. It really just gives you awareness about what's on your plate. So it helps you find, and help you to build, balanced meals with protein, fiber, healthy fats, so that you can stabilize your energy, support your sleep, and, just gives you kind of gentle reminders. So Once with the Oura ring, I ate really close to bedtime and it really did affect my sleep. And the Oura ring noticed that and it just kind of gave me that awareness. So, no need to spiral about it, but just to have note of it and then remember that for next time and adjust, when I can. I always want to say, adjust when you can, offer yourself grace when you can't, right? Because it's not about perfection. All of this is about nourishment and building a life that fits whatever season you're in. So at the end of the day, I think that the Oura ring just kind of gives me something I didn't expect it to, and that is permission for me to, rest and to adjust and to meet my capacity and to honor my body instead of ignoring it and overriding it. It really gives me permission to be flexible and simply be human, right? And it helps me to focus on recovery, not perfection and pushing myself. It helps me kind of mother myself and it helps me to build rhythms that are feeling supportive instead of controlling and rhythms that make room for my real life, for my shifting energy levels and for whatever is going on in my day to day. And, I want to be really clear about something. Wanting to have structure on your health journey or in life does not have to be the same as being controlling or rigid. Structure can be supportive. Structure can definitely be grounding, and it can definitely be a way that we love our bodies. The opposite of a supportive structure is that rigid perfectionistic control that can disconnect you from your body and make you feel like you're constantly failing, that kind of control that really leaves no space for error. And the way that we kind of shift out of that perfectionistic control is through understanding and awareness, because having awareness allows you to make choices, right? And choices allow you to be compassionate to yourself. And having compassion with yourself is a form of connection and connecting to yourself. And that connection is really what allows structure to feel supportive instead of feeling suffocating. And the Oura ring for me has been a beautiful way to build that connection because it doesn't dictate my choices, but it helps me listen to myself more clearly. And I really do think that, yes, I am loving having the Oura ring, but you can remember these principles with any tracking device that you use, right? So, as I keep learning how to use data, without losing myself, I hope that this episode can remind you that your body is always speaking to you, and maybe it's time you allowed yourself to slow down and listen. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for being here. As always, take what you need, leave what you don't, and share what resonates. And remember, small shifts create big change. Until next time.